And this episode is brought to you by Dye Real Estate and Land Company. They are the real estate agents based in Northwest Ohio that are the go-to company for people who enjoy the rural lifestyle and are looking to buy and sell some property. The whole team is amazing. I've used them in the past. I'm partial to Jaylene myself for obvious reasons, but they're all there for you whenever you need them. If you're in the market, just drop them a line at info@dyerealestate.com. That's info@dyerealestate.com. And don't forget to tell them Support Your Local Podcast sent you.
Hello, I'm Robert T. Smith, host of Support Your Local Podcast. I want to take a moment to remind you to hit that fast forward button. That is, unless you want to hear about something good being done. Anyone who knows me knows that I love bowling. In 2016, I founded the Smith Family Bowling Scholarship Foundation, intended to honor my father's hard work and dedication to community service and award scholarships to youth bowlers throughout the nation. To date, we've awarded well over $15,000 in scholarships. If you are a bowler, know a bowler, have ever seen a bowler, or heard about anyone who has ever seen a video of a bowler, I'd love for you to help promote the SFBSF and its mission. Please go to sfbsf.com and see what we're all about. While you're there, please consider hitting that donate button and helping us make a brighter future for our youth. Again, that's sfbsf.com. Thank you for your time.
I now declare the quick draw competition open.
Howdy, everyone. Pull up a chair, kick up your boots, and take a sip on a nice cold brew. It's The Quick and the Pod, the Season 2 episodes of the Support Your Local Podcast show, where we take a look at the 1995 Sam Raimi classic, The Quick and the Dead, one chapter at a time. I'm your host, as always, Robert Smith, coming to you from beautiful Tombstone. Yes, that one. Today we're going to take a look at Chapter 15, Explaining Himself. But before we do, as always, we're going to take a moment and just kind of take a quick little deep dive into one of the actors, the movers and shakers of our movie. In this instance, one that really the movie would not exist without. Today we're going to take a look at one Ms. Sharon Stone in a segment that I like to call Put My Damn Name on the Board.
Put my damn name up.
All right, and welcome to Put My Damn Name on the Board. Today, we are going to take a look at the career of one Miss Sharon Stone. Obviously plays the lady in the movie that we're talking about, but has a much bigger role involved in that. We'll get to that in just a moment. So Sharon Stone, obviously one of the big name superstarlets of 1990s into the 2000s. But if you don't know who she is, I'm not sure what exactly you've been watching, but it hasn't been any type of action-y, erotic thriller, drama of the past 40 years. She gets her start in 1981 with Deadly Blessing, has a smaller role in 1984, Irreconcilable Differences. She gets more of a mainstream role, a leading actress role in the two movies based off of Alan Quartermain, namely 1985's King Solomon's Mines, and then 1986, Alan Quartermain and the Lost City of Gold. These, for those that have never seen them, are kind of a more comedic spoof on, or not spoof, they're based on actual stories, but you get what I'm saying, more of a comedic slant on the style of like an Indiana Jones. So if you're an Indiana Jones fan, definitely check these out. They are worth watching. I will give a hot take and say that I think that these two movies are probably better than Crystal Skull. I definitely won't go so far as to say they're as good as any of the Holy Trilogy. Maybe they'll be better than the Dial of Destiny that's coming out. I'll stay tuned for that. But definitely worth a check out. 1987, Police Academy 4, Citizens on Patrol, arguably the better of the police academies. In 1988, she is in Steven Seagal's first big movie, Above the Law. Also 1988, Action Jackson. It's in 1990, though, when she gets her kind of big screen, more widely viewed movie when she is in Paul Verhoeven's 1990 Total Recall, obviously with Arnold Schwarzenegger. She plays his wife, or maybe his wife, depending on what the reality of the actual movie is. But this is when most people will know kind of first seeing her. She goes into 1992 in what is also a Paul Verhoeven movie, where I know first of Sharon Stone. I did not discover Total Recall until I was a little bit older, but I definitely know this one. I'm sure most of you also do. This is arguably where everybody began to know who Sharon Stone was, and I will tread lightly on this. But 1992's Basic Instinct, obviously in the leading role opposite Michael Douglas. So I don't know that I need to say much about Basic Instinct. Either you are well aware of what some of the famous things about that movie are or you're not. There's definitely some stories out there as to one particular scene that is very, very famous or infamous, and whether or not Miss Stone was actually aware that that was happening. So take that with what you will. I remember, I obviously did not see this in 1992. I would have been 10. But I vividly remember being at Morio Lanes, the bowling alley that I grew up in, and several of my cousins were talking to my sisters, and they were talking about this movie. And that's just some of the certain twists and turns of it, and obviously some things that were going on with it. And I remember that is when I discovered what the word lesbian was. Fun fact. But yeah, definitely I did discover that movie for myself a few years later when I hit puberty, and was actually one of the movies, sorry Mom in advance, that I would sneak rent when we went to the video store. I think it wasn't Hollywood Video, but it was another chain, not a Blockbuster, but it was something of the like. But I would grab 3 or 4 movies, 2 of them pretty innocuous, and then I would always sneak a erotic thriller that didn't have necessarily a dead giveaway title, and kind of go that route. But that's when I discovered that. So yes, without trying to sound too creepy, Sharon Stone is very, very, very much a part of my growing up as a teenager. She continues the erotic thriller story through into next year, 1993, Sliver. And it's almost as if, the producers said, how can we capitalize on the nudity and sex appeal of Sharon Stone, but add more Baldwin? Maybe if you're not a Michael Douglas one, maybe we can make this work with a Baldwin. 1994, the very next year, she's in The Specialist. And it's almost as if the producers said, how can we make this more action-y, keep the nudity of Sharon, but also deal with the ego and unfortunate nudity of Sylvester Stallone? How can we make that work? And, coincidentally, the box office drops from those 3 movies show maybe that wasn't the best strategy. We get to 1985, where we're talking about the movie that we're talking about, The Quick and the Dead. And when I said that, this movie could not exist without Sharon Stone, that's true. She's actually a producer on this movie. She is the reason that Sam Raimi was selected as the director. She is the one that handpicked Russell Crowe, who at that time was just an Australian actor, hadn't made a big American splash yet. And then she is literally the person responsible for Leonardo DiCaprio being in this movie. The studio did not want him. She personally paid Leonardo DiCaprio's salary for this movie for him to be in it. So so many things that make this movie what it is and how good it is are directly related to the pull and the sway that Sharon Stone held as a producer. She is the vehicle for this movie, and rightfully so, because at this point she had become a megastar doing what she does, which, up to that point was the erotic thrillers, but they were big money and they were a big draw. So Quick and the Dead kind of gets away from the formula of the last three. If you watch the deleted scenes, there is a brief flash of nudity with a scene with her and Russell Crowe. But the producers obviously said, how can we capitalize on Sharon Stone but add more Raimi? So I like that formula. That's a good formula for me. 1995 as well, she's also going to come into Casino. Obviously, this is the Martin Scorsese hit with Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, another great ensemble cast, and what really got her noticed for her acting. So, she's getting out of and I even dread comparing these two because they're so drastically different, but just the sex pot roles of, a Carrie Warrer or a Shannon Tweed or things like that. She's showing off her acting chops in regards to this and does it very, 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 very well. So the producers there, how can we cash in on Sharon Stone? We will take away the nudity, but we'll add more grunting, groaning, hedgehog on your back sex scene with Joe Pesci. To this day, it scars. It scars my little brain. I can't unsee that scene. But don't hold that against her. Obviously, this is where I remember Sharon Stone as an actress and her best performance. Like, she plays the role of Ginger to a T and has a wide range in her ability to act. 1996, Diabolique. 1998, she's a voice in the animated Ants movie. Also 98, Sphere, The Mighty. 99, The Muse. 2003, Cold Creek Manor. 2004, The Unfortunate Catwoman, the Halle Berry version. She comes back to her role in 2006 for Basic Instinct 2. Fun fact, I have actually never seen Basic Instinct 2. I did not hear great things about it. I'm assuming that given the time difference and the way movies are made, it would be very, very hard for them to capture lightning in the bottle the way that they did with Basic Instinct, not being able to, with our more PC culture, probably being able to make a movie like Basic Instinct and why a lot of people watch it. Let's be honest. 2013, Lovelace, and also Fading Gigolo. 2017, she is a smaller part of an agent in The Disaster Artist, which is the recreation of the making of arguably the best, worst movie ever made, The Room. And if you're not aware of what The Room is, do a brief Google search. Definitely, if you get a chance to watch it, it is everything you've ever heard on these podcasts that go over bad movies. Something that somebody should definitely watch. So check those out. But so obviously Sharon Stone, the lead in our movie, The Quick and the Dead, but one of the bigger movie stars of the past 30 years. And yes, she's had a bit of a decline in her career. Unfortunately, that's kind of the norm for actresses, not rightfully so. Somebody that has the acting ability and the acting chops that she has should definitely have a little bit better, more dramatic roles and ability to do so. She earned her keep in Casino, Academy Award nominee in regards to that. But this has been just a quick look at Miss Sharon Stone in the segment that we call Put My Damn Name on the Board.
Add my name to the list.
Attaboy!
And we're back. We are going to take a look at our Chapter 15, Explaining Himself. We start our chapter with a rainy, drizzling shot of the outside of Herod's house. And, kudos. It's at least not starting the chapter off with Sharon Stone coming through a door. So we've broken that trend for the time being. Cort is laying on his back on the porch, and he's trying desperately to catch rain in his mouth. And apparently no one refilled his glass from the previous night when he unfortunately shot himself in the foot, figuratively speaking, with Sharon. He has a look of sheer joy at the prospect of not just finally parching his thirst, but I'm sure he's also excited that he's getting some sort of bath. Coming from Arizona, I can kind of speak a little bit to this, but as windy as it was, I can personally attest how dusty things can be. It just gets everywhere. You'll walk out to your car an hour after you left it, and it's yellow from the dirt and grime and dust from a windy day. So I'm sure there's a pretty good layer of filth on him, and he may not even be that tan. When you look at his face, he's kind of one shade, even in his lips. There's no color distinction. So I wonder if he's just covered in dirt, and if he did actually get a bath, would he look like the WWE's Sheamus? I don't know. He sits up and he notices someone's nearby him, and he apologizes for his behavior, but he says that it's kind of hard to get a drink around here. We cut to see that it's actually Sharon Stone staring off into space while she's sitting and smoking a cigar. And this is either a little bit of movie magic, where we're supposed to believe that he didn't notice her come out of the saloon and sit down. And I, for one, as I spoke earlier, I appreciate if Sam Raimi did have some restraint, and that he's not showing her going through the door in the beginning of our chapter. So props to Sam on that one. Or if it's a case where she's actually been there for a while, and he's been trying to break the ice with her, and we're just now seeing like his third bad dad joke of the morning. And it's kind of like, excuse me, I don't know about you, but relationships I've had and or currently are in, where they're giving you the silent treatment. So you just kind of, you give them innocuous comments, or you ask them questions that they're going to have to feel compelled to answer just to kind of get them to talk. And I kind of get the feeling that's where we're at with the preacher and the lady. And he then proceeds to come over and sit next to her, getting her to stare away from him. So she's obviously not just zoned out. She's still very, very cognizant of what he said the previous night, and is still upset, and completely rightfully so from what had happened. He begins to explain to her that he was just a kid when he rode with Herod, and that he was attracted to the charisma of Herod, which, I mean, we can all understand. It's Gene fucking Hackman, guys. The only fearless man that he had ever met was Herod, and it drew him to him. And he was enticed by the fact that Herod wanted Cort to be just like him. And when he talks about the fearless part, this gets the attention of Sharon Stone. She begins to finally look at him, because apparently that's striking a chord with what happened during the dinner party from last night. Apparently when he went down to Nogales with Herod to rob a bank, the federales found them and shot them up. And when he says this really helps clear up one of my confusions that I've said throughout the previous chapters on whether the movie is supposed to be happening in America or Mexico. And by him saying Nogales, that's a border town for people that aren't aware. And there's actually a Nogales on the American side, and there's also a Nogales on the Mexican side. They're relatively close together. They're both right there at the border. So it helps. It kind of gives me an idea that we are in fact dealing with Arizona as the place that we're at, because there's not much of Mexico between the border and their Nogales. So for him to say we went down to Nogales means that I assume they're in the American side, because Nogales is the border of America. So if they're in Arizona, they'd have to go down to Nogales. If they were in Mexico, they would almost have to have gone up to Nogales, if that makes sense. I'm just a nerd. I'm rambling. I'm sorry, guys. Let's get back to the movie. Anyways, they were taking care of a padre, and once they were kind of brought back up to health, Herod told Cort to shoot the padre. And him not being a complete sociopath, he tells him no. So Herod proceeds to pull his gun, point it to the back of Cort's head, and start counting down from 10. So given that situation, unfortunately, Cort doesn't have any choice if he wants to have some self-survival, and he shoots the padre. And when he talks about it, you know how I am about facial acting. I think this is a really great moment with Russell Crowe's facial expressions on the grief that he still feels from something that apparently happened so long ago. You know, when he's saying he was a kid back then, you know, Russell Crowe's probably in his mid-30s, maybe late 20s, but I'd say probably mid-30s from the looks of it. Maybe it's just the dirt. Maybe if we scrubbed his tan off and he was all Seamused up. I don't know. We end our scene with Cort admitting that he knows that he's already damned due to shooting a padre. I'm pretty sure that's high up there on the list of sins. And he doesn't want Sharon Stone to go down the same road that he did. So he does have care and concern for this person. So we're starting to see a little bit of a relationship blossom there. But I did find what he says pretty interesting, because Cort's a preacher, and he's presumably doing good only to atone for his sins. If he truly thinks that he's damned, there's not a lot that he can do to fix that. So he's doing this good knowing that it's ultimately not going to be enough to cover for the sins, per his beliefs. And I admittedly, I'm not a religious man. I believe in things, but I don't, kind of conform to anything in particular. But let's just put that out there. If Cort already knows that he's damned, what is keeping him from fighting back? I know he's trying to do the good things for his own conscience. I get that. Completely get that. Though not religious, I do believe you should be a good person. That's kind of my religion. Like, let's just not be assholes, guys. But what exactly in his realm or his belief structure, what is the downside to him taking out Herod? Like, wouldn't that, one, be a justified thing? You know, he's essentially being Sam Jackson in Pulp Fiction. He's eliminating the tyranny of men, or whatever the saying was. He's ridding the world of this guy, and maybe he's getting a bit of revenge. That's fair, but he's overall doing a good thing. He's ridding the world of what is obviously an evil man and a murderer and all these things. So maybe not going back to his old ways of killing people left and right. I get that. Maybe that's a slippery slope. I don't know. I've as far as the federales know, I've never partaken in any of that, so I can't speak to it. But maybe he could sneak like one little murder in, just a little bit of murder, just one, kind of under the radar. And if it's Herod, what is the worst that can happen? He's already damned, per his own words. And I'm pretty sure that's how that works in the belief structure. Like, if you believe that that's going to happen, then that's how it's going to happen, because that's what your conscience is. But whatever, we'll get off the puzzle. All my religious peeps, If I've not offended you and gotten you to immediately burn this podcast, hit me up in the comments. Let me know, like, what is the moral obligation here? Was Cort missing? Let me know. I'm truly interested. That's where we leave our chapter. We will come back next with our follow-up one. We'll see what happens next. But until we then meet again, please, if you haven't already, please like, share, subscribe, rate, review, all that stuff. Hit us up on our social media. It's Support Your Local Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. If you want to have a private conversation, keep your religious stuff to yourself, perhaps, hit me up at SUPP, SUPP, your local podcast at gmail.com. As always, I appreciate all of your time. I look forward to putting my sweet dulcet tones into your ear holes once again very, very soon. But until then, folks, support your local podcast.